Macroeconomics Daily Brief. The answer to your question is learn the goddamn process, trade your trading plans, don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich.
Hi everyone, a bit of a different week today with being on a well-deserved trip or a small break holiday, I would say. Today is a bit of a quiet day. There's not much that's been going on. Of course, we have our regular market news that we will go over. And usually Tuesday is my day, and that means that in the after a daily brief, basically in the after party, we will look into some less structured news and some more fun. And maybe we will dive a bit deeper into what our graph signaling system has been doing, because it gave us a nice signal to go short on the S&P 500 at the close of last week. And for Bitcoin, it actually gave a nice long signal earlier last week. So I think when we are incorporating those signals in our trading plans, we should get a nice little edge and a nice little extra bit of profit this week. But we'll talk more about that in the after party. In terms of Econs, the building permits in the US came out, and they came out 5% higher, which I guess overall we could say this would be considered good news for the US. But like the article is saying as well, we really have to be careful and cautious yet that we're not out of the woods yet, because these numbers do get a bit suppressed by the rising interest rates and the ongoing inflation, which makes me temper the enthusiasm a little bit. It is the highest level since October 2022, but it's still like almost close to 13% lower than last year. When you compare these numbers to the EU, they actually seem to be the exact opposite. Especially where I'm living in the Netherlands, you see that the number of building permits is dropping like a stone. And here we're still a bit behind in terms of the interest rates, mortgage rates ramping up, and the inflation is not under control either. But I still feel like we have some catching up to do in the EU. So this, I think this gives us a little bit of a sneak peek into the future in terms of the building permits of the EU as well. Then Do Kwon, who doesn't remember Do Kwon? Do Kwon, the man, the legend. It was all fun when Luna, of course, ramped up and UST gained a lot of market cap. But we all know what happened after that. It's a bit of a sad news story here that he now gets his 4 months in prison because he was traveling with his fake passport. He didn't admit that he knew it was an illegal passport. I personally, that's my opinion, I find it hard to believe that you wouldn't be aware that it is an illegal passport, but who knows? Basically, he said that he wasn't aware that it was an illegal passport that he obtained because he had been traveling more with the same passport and it was never an issue. But I guess those 4 months that he will be put in jail now will definitely be get used to maybe prepare some harder coming jail time in another country. But we'll keep following this, and it's a bit like it's the day with news about people in the space. Sam Bankman-Fried. Last week there was maybe we can consider it FUD even. There was a bit of news that these charges got dropped against him. As it turns out, that's not really the case. It just gets postponed and pushed forward to next year. I don't think he's getting away with what he did. It would be a bit too how would you call it? A bit too easy to let him off the hook with everything that went on with FTX, even if some government or some influential people in the government are using him as a scapegoat or something. Then another, not really crypto oriented maybe, but he did seem to own quite some crypto, is our Andrew Tate. Apparently they seized 21 Bitcoin because he got in trouble as well with the prosecutors. I believe they are saying that he's involved in trafficking of female, forced and making them forced to work in pornography, rape, human trafficking. Here it is. So I guess that Andrew Tate will soon be posting a little bit less from his new temporary home. Other political news that is maybe a little bit less related to the general market, but Hunter Biden is, compared to, for example, Do Kwon, he is pleading guilty to the crimes, and he's taking a deal on the gun charge. That's pretty significant as well. But back to crypto. We of course had the story last week with Sam, and now we see that Deutsche Bank is applying for a crypto custodial license. So it's definitely not that crypto is going anywhere. It's just another cycle like it always is, and not much change compared to the other cycles. But I do think that the big guys, they are really trying to put a foot behind between the door and establish themselves in this space, going to offer custodial services and just trying to get the crypto kids out of their crypto positions before we get a next one. I saw a tweet coming by, and I thought it was an interesting one. Someone said, well, news like this, and he was replying to the Deutsche Bank license, is an affirmation for me that this cycle and the last run that we had for crypto definitely wasn't the last one. He's confident that we'll get one more, and that's the time to really bank on all your crypto. And yeah, I kind of agree with that. I could totally see that happening. And the same as what Brian has been saying is that we get a nice accumulation year, which we are in now. We do get a nice bull one, and a lot of opportunities in end of 2024, 2025 to look at our positions. And what you can already see is that Bitcoin, no matter what everyone is saying, I do still feel it's maturing. And if parties like this are getting involved more and more, I think the volatility will become less and less of Bitcoin, for example. So it might be that those crazy runs that might be dampened a little bit in the future, at least for the big names in the crypto space. Of course, you will also always have these little nuggets of quote unquote innovation that do our 100x's and that do buy us swimming pools and Lambos and islands and what else. But I think that the entire space is still maturing and that it's not going anywhere. So I'm still perfectly comfortable holding onto my Bitcoin on a cold wallet. I can't even recover it from my home if I lose it. But that's fine. It's a cold wallet, and it really prevents me as well from doing crazy stuff with crypto, like selling now. It's not something that I'm doing with my long-term investments like Bitcoin. And for the people who did watch the Afterparty, I believe it was last week or the week before, I talked a little bit about how Binance was moving away from the Netherlands. And the main reason was that they said that the regulations were really hard to come by. But as it turns out now, and this is something that I didn't know before, is that the Dutch central bankers basically the Dutch central bank, they fined Binance with $3.3 million or $3.6 million a year ago for breaking the rules by offering their services to Dutch people while they weren't registered at the central bank. And at the same time, as we also discussed last week, is that they're getting a bit of fire from France. So everything that I see kind of like feeds into this idea that I have that they're trying to get the establishment more in control of the crypto space than these companies like for example, Binance or smaller companies here in the Netherlands that basically they threw the towel in because they couldn't fight against the competition anymore, like Binance with their low fees. And the irony now is that Binance is going away. So the amount of options that you have as an on and off ramp in the Netherlands are really coming down. And I'm seeing the same in other places in the world. And then, of course, how convenient would it be that if all these small players are gone, that you can just go into your bank account that you already have, your traditional bank account that's paying me a 1% interest rates, while they are getting 3.5 at the ECB, and you can send your Bitcoin to them, and you can use them as an off-ramp against a 3% fee or whatever. I could really see that happening within now and 2 years. Yeah, be careful out there. This one was going around as well on Twitter. I could verify it in the weekend, not anymore, luckily. But if you would go to the App Store on iOS, which is a pretty well validated space, I would say, a validated space. I mean that if you submit your app for iOS, for your iPhone or your tablet, it really gets reviewed a lot. But somehow, if you would search for Trezor, this Trezor wallet suite came up, which has nothing to do with actual Trezor, but you could fill in your Trezor stuff, and they could basically run with your crypto. And as you can see in the subtitle, it says programming on the go. So my hunch is that this was first a perfectly valid app, something called like programming wallet suite, something like that. And then later on, they renamed it to make sure Trezor was in there and to trick people with their update. So always be careful, even when going to the to places like the Apple App Store. Let's see. Maybe we can look at some charts here. Gold is taking a bit of a hit today, although it's I see it's been recovering a little bit. For the people who haven't seen me a lot yet on the public show, you see that I'm using quite a different setup of indicators on my screen compared to Brian. So I want to take this moment and quickly go through it and then see and show you guys how I'm using this to make you guys understand how I'm thinking about the market, how I'm seeing the market based on my own set of indicators here. One of the things that maybe jumps out as well is that I'm not using red and green candlesticks. Red and green are very vibrant colors, especially on a black background. But I really like these white and gray candles. It gives me a little bit less of an anxious feeling when I see a lot of red candles. And at the same time, I'm just as comfortable as taking short setups as I am with taking long setups. But somehow in our minds, it's wired that green is good and red is bad. So even if you're taking a short setup and it's going down, I'm still seeing red candles. So in my mind, unconscious, I'm still less happy than when I'm seeing green. So that's why I prefer using these neutral colors, just being gray and white. But besides that, it's just the regular candlesticks. Then below that, I have my RSI setup. It's an RSI 14 based on the closing prices. And on top of that, it's something that I don't see a lot of people do. I have my Bollinger Bands on it, but I'm using the RSI as a source with a length of 50 and a standard deviation of 2. And what I found that this does is that it really gets me out of or keeps me out of trouble, and it signals some great value for me. So what I'm looking at when using this combination of tools, and I'm zooming out a little bit so that you can see, is the squeeze of the bands. That's what I'm most interested in. So typically, one could say that if you go back in the bands, that would be a buy signal. But then when I see that we just came from a narrow section, being this section, to a very wide section, what that tells me is that there's plenty of room to go up, but at the same time, there's plenty of room to go down as well. It's just playing around in this range. So these are not moments that I'm looking to enter new positions or investments. I'm mostly looking at these crosses back in, back up, and crosses on the midline when there's quote unquote compression in my bands. So if we take a look here, let's go back here. If we can find a nice example, and on Bitcoin it's a little bit easier to spot, but this is what I like more. Like, so if you get this kind of compression and I get then moves back in my band, I know they are going to, in general, be more volatile than when we are in these big ranges. And here you can see the same. We cross back in during compression time, we cross back up, then we jumped out, and then you basically get your run, and I'm starting to be careful when we are going inside the band again. Especially this combined with the MACD, which I like to use, where it's going, where I'm basically, you can use the MACD, of course, for divergence spotting, but I really like to use it for the flip-flopping around the zero line. So for me, the MACD is telling me the direction the market is probably going, and that's the direction I'm allowed to take setups in. So here you can see that the MACD flipped from positive to negative. Because it's flipped negative here, I'm only allowed to take bearish setups during this time. And then from here, I'm going to take long setups. And this is really the TY indicator, a bit of the work of Brian and his father, of course. Not going into detail of that too much. We do cover it immensely in our course and a lot of setups. But for most of you guys, it will be a familiar cookie already. So if you now know what I'm looking at, for me, I could very much see gold breaking down, but I'm a bit anxious because you can see that my MACD is actually still positive, negative, positive, negative. It's flip-flopping here. We're not coming out of oversold territory. Yes, my RSI is below my mid-band, but we didn't came from a whole whack of compression either, or a big move. So for me, yeah, we could very easily go down, but there's no setup for me to look at. When we check the weekly, it's getting a little bit more interesting because here you can see that we have this topping pattern together with the divergence here, and the MACD flipped over here, and we came out of overbought territory. That's when I start getting interested to hunt these setups on lower time frames. But I need that confluence on multiple time frames. So for gold, not much to do there for me. It's just a bit of noise here so far. Oil, I know Brian likes to look at oil as well. I'm not really an oil trader, and I'm not really following the market a lot for oil, but this looks a bit like the same as my commentary on gold. It's flip-flopping a little bit, no extremes to to the upside or the downside. So for me, this is just noise. But then I do get a little fire burning inside of me because I'm starting to see that we might be building compression. And how something then might look forward is that something like this might happen, where we get in this more narrow compression, And then I'm interested once we go to the upside and then cross back in with the MACD flip aligning with that price action. So that's how I'm usually looking at the markets and making my analysis. When we look at the euro, which is always good to keep in mind as well, because a lot of people, especially if you're beginning with trading, I'm speaking to a lot of people in the Netherlands, for example, that are buying the S&P on a monthly basis, which is totally fine, but then they aren't really aware of the changes of the euro against the dollar. When you're investing in the S&P and you are in the eurozone, you're actually taking on two trades. One trade is making sure that the euro isn't crashing against the dollar, and the second one is that the S&P is going up. And people often aren't aware that if, like here, what happened, if the euro comes down, or here actually, if the euro comes down as much as it did, and and we're talking about like a 10% difference here easily, that might kill your entire trading performance, although you had an excellent year on the S&P. So that's something to be aware of for all the people. So if you are in the eurozone, I'm trading a lot of US stocks, but I'm also making sure that I have a little bit of exposure to the EU and the euro market by basically investing in euro stocks. Let's take a quick look at Bitcoin here. I'm using Bitstamp. So, like I said in the beginning of the video, we got our signal on the 15th, which was right around here at this bottom. Perfectly timed signal, very nice, with your entry on plenty of time to take an entry basically on the signal. And we're ramping up higher here. For me, I don't really believe that this is the start of a new bull run in crypto. I do like that we got this compression over here and the MACD is positive, but I'm already hopping some of my Bitcoin longs, and note these are not my Bitcoin long-term holdings. This was just my other stack of trading Bitcoin. So yeah, I could see Bitcoin maybe going a little bit higher here, but this is another return for me. This doesn't look like my regular bottom that we should see. Yeah, just waiting here, and I really would like that MACD to flip a positive on the weekly as well, and to have that RSI indicator here with my bands to cool down a little bit. As most TRI members know, one of our other positions that we have is hello. This is one of those positions that technically there's not a lot of reason to be doing anything with this at the moment, but it's just a purely fundamental play that I think that if it goes the way I think it will go, it can give us some nice returns once the plans that they have go live. So in short, what they are just Dragon's Den, basically for crypto, where crypto projects can present themselves, do a little pitch, get an investment, and the son of Snoop Dogg is involved, and that's all I need for a good bit of hype in a crypto project. A more technical and fundamental project, of course, was Acash. We were in Acash from the very early beginning, I would say. I still like the fundamental story, and there's still plenty of room to move up. But the honest story here as well is that at the moment I feel like it's overpriced fundamentally. So here I'm still waiting for it to come down a little bit more. We had this recent retrace to 45, after which it launched itself higher, but it failed to create a new higher high. And I'm actually still really would like us to draw a reload zone here of this last range and hunt our long setups in this area below the 40 cents basically. So what would be fair price value? I think 25 cents from a fundamental perspective would be more suiting for hello. One of the other assets that I also like really fundamentally, and that is looking better in terms of trade location, is Rune. We already have quite a bag at TRI. You can see that we're in a long-term support zone. Yeah, I'm just waiting here for them to release new stuff. But this could even well go 50% down more, or just go sideways for 2 years without anything happening. But it's on our radar. We've already got our back, and I feel like this is a nice position to have. The other one we've been talking about since early, 60 cents, 40 cents, something like that, is Render. I also feel it's overpriced and overhyped at the moment, so I still would like this one to come down to more reasonable levels, like 70, 80 cents. I don't know if it will get there, and if it won't get there, that's fine as well. We got our free ride already, but I just would like to load up one more time. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the changes that we did to the member dashboard and to the breadth, where we also linked a new or we launched a new channel in Discord, the Pro Signals channel, where we can have discussion about the signals coming in. And then I hope to see you guys soon in the after party. And I want to thank you all. And then there's just one more thing to say, I guess. And that's bye for now. Of tot ziens in het Nederlands. Bye guys.